of criminal investigation. Follow the rich white man.
Follow the rich white man?
Exactly. Now you're learning. Every big crime has a rich white man behind it waiting for his cut. Now, in our case, we know who the rich white man is. Stephen Rain.
Who?
Stephen Rain, the hotel billionaire. I saw him on Ricky Tan's boat. When the shooting started, he was way too cool. And I'm gonna tell you something. When people start shooting, white people ain't that cool. They either running around, hiding behind tables, or screaming like, ah!
You sound like that all the time.
Let me tell you something about black people. When stuff goes down, we keep our cool.
So welcome to part number 7 of Roll Call. And on part number 6, we were trying so much to get done reading this aspect of the fact that lions are suffering infertility and their populations are dwindling because they are suffering from albinism. Albinism produces infertility. And this is what is happening also in human beings. And we explained earlier the fact that the government tries to make you believe that the reason for the dwindling populations of animals is because of the human factor and climate change. Because climate change at the end of the day says that humans are the problem. But if you look at all the corporations that are used to make money in this world, they are all government owned and they are mega, great, massive organizations who go about destroying all the land and the fauna and yet blaming it on the population when the government owns them. So you can see how Satan has twisted this thing in that he's the one at work but blaming you guys. And you guys are taking the responsibility for it because you do not keep the commandment of the Creator. Everything is just a job to you. You do not care about anything except your gut and your belly. Because you have been conditioned to be dumb and stupid by society, which has made you not to be able to know how to grow your own crops and plant your own food, or either is trained you to be dumb by conditioning you not to know anything. Most people can't wash their clothes without a washing machine. Most people can't even cook a meal. They don't know how to cook a decent meal. They don't know how to hunt, fish. They do not know where they are without a GPS. Without a phone, if you put them in a forest, they are lost. They do not know what day it is, what month it is. All right? Because you've all been conditioned by this system to be dumb, but yet you think you're wise. Because as we explained earlier, one of these days in the future, the government is going to shut down everything and people will be begging for that artificial intelligence chip, which will be touted long before that as the solution to all the problems. The artificial intelligence chip. So getting back to what we're trying to read here to show you how the government misconstrues facts for us, because we are just as wicked as they are, even though we do not know that we have been practicing Satanism all along. Because under normal circumstances, A person living in this world, your primary concern should be, why are you here? Because you just happen to exist one day. So where did you come from? It's the primary concern of any human being to ask that question. But nobody does. They found themselves here and all they care about is how to survive here. To eat, live, and breathe. And nothing else matters. And they become wicked to another human being in order to get what they want. Because why? They have refused true knowledge. And only true knowledge. And true knowledge can only be gotten by keeping the commandments of the Creator. That you shall do no wickedness to another human being who isn't trying to kill you or murder you. You can't be good to everybody. You don't have that responsibility. Because, for example, in today's society, what happens is that the system has trained you that if you do charitable deeds, you give money to a charity, all right? Or you give money to so and so, that you are a great person. The question that nobody does ask is, how did you get the money in the first place? Were you stealing from someone? Were you causing someone's death to get that money? Because that's what's actually happening. So after you've caused someone's death and you've stolen from the person, you now give to a charity and you think that the Creator is going to say that you are good. That is what the world promotes through Satanism. Because at the end of the day, you see a lot of people get on social media and say that they are doing good. They show you themselves giving to charity here and there. And all these charitable deeds, your government will say, okay, we donated this and this to this hospital, cancer patients. But how is the cancer solved? How is the cancer produced? Has anybody ever asked that question? How did the cancer get into the population that the government now is now an advocate against cancer? Nobody does ask that question. So, people today are busy being very wicked to humanity, all in the name that they're doing a job. And then when they get benefits, they now say that they are giving to charity. This is what the children of Israel in the Bible were doing. They were stealing and killing, and whatever money they made, they now took to the temple and said they were giving an offering. And the Creator was mad. Why would you do such a thing? Just like Cain and Abel. Cain killed his own brother, but he expected that he should be right before God because he did something right. Wickedness against humanity is denying that the Creator does exist. You do not care about Him. So do not lie to yourself. Most people are practicing Satanism, as we have said earlier. 8 people survived from trillions in the flood of Noah. How was it only 8 people? What were the others doing? The Bible said that as in the days of Noah, as they were in that day thinking that they were following the Creator, so will it be now. And the only way to know the Creator is not to be born again. You know how Satanists preach that fact, because if you understand the fact that Christianity is Satanism, you will understand that that so-called thing that they tell you, if you believe in Jesus, that you will be saved, is actually false. If you believe in Jesus, because Jesus is Satan, I already explained that earlier for you. If you believe in Jesus, you are going to hell. The only thing that's going to save you is keeping the commandment of the Creator, that you shall have no other Creator besides Him. You will not listen. You will not know anything. You will not put anything in front of you. You will not believe anything until you've passed it through the filter of the Creator, which says that you shall do no wickedness to any human being who's not trying to kill you, and yourself as well. So let's read here because we want to get over this particular portion of the website which we've been struggling to read for a while and we still can't do it. It says here, African lion populations are dwindling due to poaching, habitat destruction from land development, and diseases. All false information. As we have told you, the reason why the lion population is dwindling is because of albinism has set in. All right? The IUCN, or International Union for Conservation of Nature, lists the species as vulnerable and regionally endangered in West Africa. Conservation efforts generally aim to reduce human impacts on animal suffering in the wild. So you can see right there that they are saying that you are the problem. Now the question now we have to ask is, how many people eat lion meat? How many people go out and just say, I want to go kill a lion? None. Very few. So how would the humans be the problem to the lions? They are not. The lions are dying because of albinism. Infertility has set into the population of lions because there are albinos. And this is what is happening to human beings. Let's continue reading. It says, conservation as an endeavor is basically about trying to maintain elements of the naturally occurring system to the best that you can. Anato said. While the blond lions are a pretty sight. So this particular article is talking about the fact that there are blond lions. Now, the blond lions are lions that are now fully albinic. There is no help. So if you have blonde hair, it means that you are close to the end of your lifespan. If you have children with another person that's blonde, you probably will not have children, or the children are going to come out and they're going to have a lot of genetic diseases which will put you in the hospital all the time. That child is going to suffer because of your stupid ego as an albino, believing in the myth of albinic supremacy, or whiteness as we call it. And woe unto you to bring a child into this world to suffer. Because as we've explained earlier, when you're laying up and having sex with whosoever you're having sex with, that child is not saying, I should be born to you. You brought that child to this world. You have to be responsible for that child. You have to be responsible for your children. You have to love, protect, and care for your children till the day you die. There's no such thing as chasing them out of the house when they're 18 years of age. They did not ask to be here. You brought them here. So take care of your children. The stupid laws of Satanists has made people to be wicked to their children who did not ask for them to be here. Who did not ask to be here. You brought them here. And at 18 years of age, you chase them out of the house. And you think that you love the Creator. You are a Satanist. Can you see how so many people are practicing Satanism without knowing? And they're going to end up in hell in the lake of fire and then wonder, how did I get here? They don't know that. So let's continue reading. It says, while the blond lions are a pretty sight in their wild environments, their coloring could belie health issues. False information. Is not could. Let me read it right. Their coloring shows that they have health issues. That's because in order to maintain the white coloring, the lions had to be what? Inbred. Can you see that? Ensuring 2 copies of the recessive mutation would get passed down to offsprings. So, inbreeding is the reason why people come out blonde. And the lions already are albinos. And when you become blonde, it means that you are having full genetic sicknesses at this point. So albinism, having of straight hair, is a genetic sickness. It's an illness. Because naturally, you were not supposed to be inbreeding. Inbreeding brought about the fact that you have straight hair. And if you continue down the path, you're going to breed children with a whole lot of health issues because you already are sick yourself. So earlier on part number 6 of Roll Call, we did try to make you understand the fact that men are far more superior than women in intelligence because of testosterone. And we did explain that the reason why the Creator designed women the way they were was so that man could find a woman attractive, because naturally a man doesn't really require a woman, okay? But because for the purpose of procreation, so that we might have a lot of people in the earth, because people do not really understand the creation story in the Bible and what really transpired, so they don't understand the creation story perfectly. Because if you read in the creation story, Adam was created first and then Eve was created later as a helper. All right, so the reason why Eve was created later was because man really didn't require a woman. So when man was created, he did not require a woman. The woman was added later. So in that genetic disposition, men do not really need women. It's the women that need the men because the desire to procreate and have children was placed on the woman. Let me show you that before we continue. So here we're reading from Genesis chapter number 3, and we're reading in verse number 16 of the Geneva Bible. It says, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly increase thy sorrows and thy conceptions. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and thy desire shall be subject to thy husband, and he shall have rule over you." So this was a set law, a spiritual law, a natural law set. The woman shall have desire. So the desire to procreate children was placed on the woman. It wasn't placed on the man. So that's why when you study your Bible, you find out that the male terminology, eunuch, is only applied to men. If a woman decides to say that she's a eunuch today, which is not of her own doing, she just makes that decision, she is a practicing Satanist, because that's not what she was designed to do. So here is how people get into practicing Satanism without knowing. And when they end up in hell and the lake of fire, all right, like the people who existed during the time of the flood of Noah, they wonder, how did I get to hell? Because you refused the commandment of the Creator. So getting back to what we were trying to say before, as the woman is created, she's created naturally to have less testosterone in the body. And less testosterone means that you're less intelligent. Now, for all purposes of statements that we're making here, we are talking about black men and black women because they are the standard of humanity. We're not talking about albinos here or anybody with straight hair. So when we make references in statements comparing gender, all right, please take note that we're talking about black men and black women. So if you're an albino and you insert yourself into that, this subject matter is not talking about you. So naturally, the woman is created with less testosterone. So less testosterone means that she is less intelligent. Now, a lot of people or women, because of feminism, do not like that statement, but this is a fact, because the whole idea of usurping control over humanity is that, as Satan did in the Garden of Eden by tempting Eve, he used the woman to get to the man. He didn't go to Adam, because Adam was of supreme intelligence. It was from the lineage of Adam that the Creator only spoke through that lineage. That lineage was traced all the way down to the tribe of Levi, and they were the only ones whom the Creator spoke with. So anybody who says today that he hears of the Creator, all right, is a liar. You had to be of the lineage of which Moses came from. And the government of this world, through Satanists, have been killing that lineage because that lineage only belonged to Israel, to the nation of Israel, who make up 50% of the whole entire world population today, but live unknown to themselves as really being Israel. So women naturally are created with less testosterone. Less testosterone means less intelligence. It means that you're more feminine. So that's the reason why albinos, anybody with straight hair, all around the world look effeminate, because they have less testosterone. So they can never be of supreme intelligence as we are made to believe. Less testosterone. And now the question we now have to ask is, how is testosterone gotten in the body? It is gotten through carbon, which has been falsely called melanin and melatonin. That's number one reason for getting testosterone. The second reason for getting testosterone, or how you can get testosterone the natural way, because if you inject yourself with testosterone, this is something that's chemically made to mimic real testosterone. Real testosterone can only be gotten naturally. The body naturally produces it. So anything they produce in a lab is just mimicking testosterone. It's not the real thing. So do understand that, okay? So testosterone is gotten from the carbon that you have. That's number one. And black people have the greatest amount of carbon, melanin or melatonin as it's falsely called, in the body. That's the number one way. All right. Now, a woman will never get a high testosterone level as a man, because doing that means that she's male. And there is no hermaphrodites in human beings. You're either male or you're female. So the woman is genetically limited to having testosterone equal to the amounts that a man should have. It's impossible. She will have enough testosterone to be a woman, but she will never have enough testosterone to be a man. So testosterone means that you're intelligent. So all intelligence comes from men, not from women. Now, the second thing to being intelligent is sunlight. You must have the full spectrum of sunlight. The only continent in the world, as we showed you earlier, all right, in part 1 of roll call or part 2 of roll call, the only continent in the world that has the full spectrum of sunlight every year, all day, every season is Africa. So those are the two constituents for being intelligent. So if someone has to be intelligent, that means they have to be male, supreme intelligence, because as we explained earlier, using the Bible, when man was created, he was created with supreme intelligence, the first man in Adam. And that supreme intelligence was passed down to the tribe of Levi. They were the only people whom the Creator communicated with. And Moses was of the tribe of Levi. Now, this is what Christianity will not teach you, so that they can deceive you through the false priest of pastors set up all around the world. The government also has been killing the tribe of Levi, together with the leadership of the true nation of Israel, who have been helping the wicked satanic government of the world to kill their own lineage, whom the Creator spoke through only. The leaders of the nation of Israel are helping to kill their own Levite lineage, so that they can be the ones in power and not the Creator over the nation of Israel. Because the Creator does not speak through anybody else except He was from the tribe of Levi. So that's why Christianity preaches, because Christianity is Satanism, that there is no such thing as the Levitical priesthood anymore. Because if you studied your Bible, you would notice that the speakers, the people who spoke for the Creator, We're of that tribe. So in order to confuse you so that you can believe in the false ideology of pastors, because every pastor is a liar. There are no sincere pastors because they know for sure that the Creator did not call any one of them, because it's men who make men pastors. And who makes these people pastors? It is the satanic, wicked government. So Christianity is owned by the government to control your mind from the truth of seeing the Creator and knowing how things work. So continuing back, that is the reason why Eve was tempted and not Adam. In the same exact thing, that is what is still going on today. To get to creation, to make creation fall, all right, and not see the Creator, feminism has to be preached, because feminism makes everybody weak. And let's explain something here. A woman cannot protect a man. It is impossible for a woman to protect a man. A woman cannot take care of a man. A woman takes care of children and babies. That's why if a woman takes care of a man, after a while it becomes burdensome. She starts asking questions. You are the one who's supposed to do this, not me. Because biologically, she's not wired to do that. So as long as feminism is preached, it weakens humanity. Because feminism cannot protect manhood. It's men that protect women. It's men that take care of women. It's not the other way around. So today, when a woman has been made to be superior, all right, and the voice of the household, things always go wrong. So that's why there's so many broken homes, because of feminism. So a lot of people are practicing Satanism without realizing the fact. And they're going to end up in hell and then wonder, how did I get here? Because you've been a practicing Satanist all your life. Feminism is one of those practices. So continuing on here, we want to show you the recipe for you to understand that intelligence is manly. It's not a female trait. It's not. So every time they are preaching to you that women are more smarter than men, they are actually preaching feminism to you. And a lot of people have soaked into it. And that's the reason why the world is the way it is. It's now all feminine. And once it's feminine, the men act like women and Satan runs riot. So that's why, for example, in today's America, we've shown you so many presidents already who are female. And yet all the so-called machismo of Americans, of both black and albinos in the United States of America, have never ever one day stood up to say, why is an imposter in the White House? So all the machismo that you watch on your TV and all the gangster walking of Crips and Bloods and all the gangsters in the United States and all the fake machismo of gangsters, of drug dealers, it's all feminine energy. Because if you guys were so strong, a female imposter shouldn't be your president in the White House. But this is what is happening. So all the fake nonsense that you watch of people trying to say that they are machismo, barking like they're a Superman or whatever, it's all fake energy. It's not real energy. Because if you were strong, you wouldn't have a female imposter in the White House. Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, and we're still not yet done. All fake. So Americans, both black and albino, are the weakest people in the world, physically and mentally. Because if you are wearing that weak, you would not have a president, imposter, female in the White House. All the machismo that you watch on TV is all fiction, because you all are physically weak, mentally and physically. And this is because of feminism, which the greater American public practices at an all-time high. So continuing on here, we want to show you, all right, that testosterone equals to intelligence. The more testosterone you have, the more intelligent that you are. And the people with the highest testosterone levels in the whole entire world are African males. Because why? They have the recipe to create as much testosterone as they want. So their intelligence has no limits. One, African males have the highest carbon content, melanin or melatonin in the body. Number one. Number two, they have the full spectrum of sunlight. And we read that article earlier before, and let's read it again here so you guys can see. We're not going to read everything here, so if you really want to read everything yourself, we provided a link for you on Roll Call 1 or Roll Call number 2, so you can go watch that. We just want to read some part because we have so much to go over which we even haven't touched. So reading here, it says, exposure to UV light activates a molecular pathway that increases production of the brain chemical glutamate, heightening the animal's ability. They always like using animals in so many of these false investigations they do. Are animals that important, or is it human beings that are the most important things? So most of the research papers that you read in which they say they use animal, mice, butterflies and all that to do some sort of research which actually affects human beings, they are actually studying human beings. They just put up butterflies or whatever animals they want to name because they don't want you to know what they're doing. They don't want you to know that they've been taking black males and black women, murdering and killing them for the so-called wicked satanic system of healthcare in this world. So when you get to a hospital or you get to the DMV and they ask for all your information and you give them all the correct information about you, you're making yourself a target. You're going to come up missing one of these days. Because with that information, it goes to a database and they know exactly who they need for their next research paper. That's what's going on. This whole entire system is as wicked as you can imagine. Imagination is not the only thing here. It's beyond that. So when they say animals, mice, or whatever, it's actually false. They are doing the study on black males. That's why black males go missing like crazy. And black women as well. Let's read here again so you guys can see this. It says, UV light. Remember, the so-called Albinic system tells you that the UV rays of the sun is harmful to you. It says that, right? How can something be harmful and good at the same time? The sun doesn't hurt nobody. Look at the pyramids of Egypt. How do you think they were built? It was built by black males. Why was it not reproduced in any other place in the world? Because Africans are the most intelligent human beings in the whole entire world. Their knowledge is used to make white supremacy what it is, albino supremacy, anybody with straight hair. And we'll tell you all about how they do it later on. So it wasn't reproduced. The pyramids were not reproduced anywhere else in the world because Africans are the most intelligent human beings. Why? Because they have the greatest amount of carbon content in the body necessary to produce testosterone, which makes you intelligent. And they also have the greatest amount of sunlight every day, all around the year. Other continents just get it at certain points in the year, like during the summer, and that's it. But with Africa, it's all year round. So as we read here, it says UV light activates a molecular pathway that increases production of the brain chemical glutamate, heightening the animal's ability to learn and remember. So that is what is going on. So the farther out of Africa you are less intelligent because you do not have the sunlight. The sunlight produces all the correct nutrients that people need to eat. And it's only in Africa that they get all these nutrients. So if you were not born and bred in Africa and enjoyed that sunlight, which activates everything else to make you intelligent, the further out you are from there, you are actually less intelligent because you were not born and bred there. So being African means that you are born and bred in Africa and you are black with woolly hair. If you're an albino, you're still not going to get that because your protein, the information pathways in your body is already denatured. because you came from the same genetic material. You're making an identical copy of yourself every time you breed or procreate with another albino. So you're not getting the correct neural pathways necessary for intelligence. We'll get to that later. So let's get back to what we were saying. So getting back to what we were saying, we want to show you that testosterone equals to intelligence. So the whole idea that you've been believing that women are smarter than men is actually very false. So reading here, it says, according to Mrazek, having too much testosterone has an increased level of intelligence as a side effect. I'm not going to read it the way these people wrote this information down because most of it is false. So when I read it in such a way, I'm removing all the so-called falsehoods they put in here so you guys don't get it, because they put such sentences as can have is actually false. It's not can have, has. Okay? So according to Mrazek, having too much testosterone has an increased level of intelligence as a side effect. Let's read further down. So it says here, there seems to be. There's not seeming to be. It's what it is, because they don't want you to know, because they always impute lies into everything, so you don't know how the system works. It says there is evidence that excessive prenatal exposure to testosterone facilitates increased connections in the brain, especially in the right prefrontal cortex, Mrazek argues. So testosterone equals to intelligence. And the woman is limited to the amount of testosterone she has so she can be feminine, so that males can find her attractive for procreation. Otherwise, there wouldn't exist people in the earth. This is superior, supreme intelligence by the Creator. So if you do not know the Creator, you will not be intelligent, because you will not get into this kind of information. Let's continue reading one more article to show you that males are far more superior, running on the highest form of processing corn. When we talk about males here, we're talking about black males, and especially African males. Let's continue reading. So here on the website, it says curve linear correlations between total testosterone levels and fluid intelligence in black men and black women, because they are the standard of humanity. We're not talking about anybody who has straight hair here. All right. So let's continue reading. It says the relationship between serum total testosterone level and fluid intelligence was studied in young black men and women. Let's put it right. In young African men and women. Okay? There was no significant difference between IQs of men and women. False information. They want to throw you off. So they just put that bullshit here because feminism has to be preached. That women are more intelligent than men. That nonsense has to be believed so that manhood can be eroded and Satan can have his way as he had his way in the Garden of Eden through a woman who is less intelligent than a man. All right? We already showed that to you, that Adam was not deceived in any way. Satan went directly to Eve. He didn't go to Adam. So let's keep on reading. It says, IQ tended to increase with T. T here is testosterone. So this is how these people, write things and you guys don't understand what you're reading. Instead of saying testosterone, they just mention it as T. So your brain cells will not connect the dots. All right? It says IQ tended to increase with testosterone in men. Then it imputes a lie here. It says, except at very high testosterone levels. What bullshit are you trying to say? You first of all say that IQ, which is intelligence, tended to increase with testosterone in men, and then you say except at very high testosterone levels. What sort of bullshit story is that? Because this is written by Satanists to confuse you, to keep on making you believe in feminism. Now, let's finish reading this. It says, it was concluded testosterone is associated with IQ. We're not reading it the way they want you to read it so you get confused. We're reading it the right way so you see what's going on here. All right? It says, even in samples with no sex-related IQ difference. So that means even when they were studying the testosterone, all right, across males, across African males, they found out that the higher testosterone in any African male that they found, there was so much intelligence. That's what the statement says. But they put it in such a way that you don't understand because they say sex related. If you don't know how to read with intelligence, you wouldn't know what you're reading. So let's continue reading here, okay? And finish this off. It says, too low, false information. Let's read it right. Too high testosterone may be disadvantageous for fluid intelligence in women. Can you see that? It says that we men cannot have super intelligence even with increased testosterone in their body, which is impossible because there is a limit on the amount of testosterone a woman can naturally have. Because if it's high, it's too high, she cannot be a woman. That's what you have to understand. There's a genetical limit on the amount of testosterone a woman can have in her body. This is placed upon her right from conception. Because too much testosterone and the female ovum will not form. So these people, oh my goodness, these people actually make women to be pregnant. And they inject artificial testosterone into these babies, into a woman's womb, just to see how the effects of this testosterone can do to a baby. This is how wicked these people are. That is the statement that they are saying, which you don't get, because you guys are dumb and do not care about truth. We are trying as much as possible to make you understand your world, to see the wickedness that's going on. But you guys refuse to see because you are just as wicked as the people who carry out these research papers and write it down for you in such a way that you do not understand. So the summation of this story, okay, is saying here that testosterone may be advantageous. Wrong information. Testosterone is advantageous for this kind of intelligence in men. That's the summation. Anything else that you're reading after that is all false. So this is the proof that we wanted to show to you. That testosterone equals to intelligence. And the people with the highest form of testosterone in the body are African males. Because they have the sunlight, the full spectrum of sunlight, which is required for intelligence, and they have the highest form of carbon, which is falsely known as melanin and melatonin in the body. And therefore, a woman cannot be as intelligent as a man. So we're still on the facts of trying to make you understand that the greatest disease and sickness in the world, which is killing humanity than every other disease that has ever existed combined, is called albinism, having straight hair. So if you have straight hair, you are genetically sick. And once you are sick, the only thing that you will do is listen to a doctor's instructions, because you have no ability to think. Because you are sick and you want to get well, you will do what the doctor tells you. And this is why there is such a high prevalence of wickedness in society, because all the positions of power which are used to control society are given to albinos. And since albinos are genetically sick and ill, all what they do is follow instructions and commands because they cannot think. And therefore, the system of albino supremacy is solidly protected, causing wickedness to everybody, including the people who are protecting it themselves, who are albinos. So, it's a great sickness, but it's celebrated. Celebrated because the families who run the world, who are Satanists, want it to be this way. Now, it does not mean that they do not give black people positions of power. They do. But these black people are people who are sold to albinic supremacy. So that's what you have to understand. Now, they've been hiding this fact for years, that people who have straight hair are genetically sick. But it's been coming to the forefront, and it's something that they can't hide anymore. So through very sly ways, they've been trying to make the albino population to understand that they're genetically sick and that they need carbon, which is falsely called melanin and melatonin, from black people for them to survive, because the artificial intelligence chip has not been perfected yet. And also because the world hasn't been socially engineered to that point in which they'll readily accept it. But the world is being socially engineered to do that, to receive implants or have all kinds of surgery which demands that your body is cut up. Okay? So for example, all the plastic surgeries that people go through, breast implants, butt implants, or any sort of implant that's not necessary, is still training the population. It's socially engineering the population so that when the time comes for them to accept that artificial intelligence chip, they'll readily accept it. Tattoos and body modifications are all parts of the social engineering. So for example, when you watch such shows as Black Ink Crew, all right, or any crews that deal with tattoos and body modifications, is socially engineering your mindset to accept something foreign into your body. And a lot of people are doing it, thinking it's going to make them beautiful. And with the fact that the whole entire world is being dumbed down, and the idiots who are being dumbed down don't even know that they're being dumbed down because they don't know anything. As we've explained earlier, how would you know what month of the year it is, what day of the year it is, if you do not have a phone and a calendar? Nobody knows that. Nobody absolutely cares. How are you going to survive without a GPS? If you were thrown into a country that you have no idea, you've never been there, how would you find yourself home if you had nobody to ask? Nobody is interested in that. Nobody knows how to start a fire without a match. How are you going to cook? Nobody knows how to hunt or catch fish. How are you going to survive? Nobody knows how to wash their clothes without a washing machine. How are you going to survive? Nobody knows, all right, how to plant their own crops and grow animals to survive. How are you going to survive? Because in the future, the government will shut down power. They'll give you an excuse that they can't generate power anymore. All the electricity that you're enjoying will be shut down at some point in the future. And because the dumb public has been socially engineered to be dumb, not to be able to know anything. They don't even know what direction the sun rises, because science tells you that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and people actually believe that. But it's actually very false. How are you going to know where you are? Nobody knows this. So the dumb public is socially engineered. And when they get dumber and dumber towards the time the electricity gets shut off, there was a show at one point in time in which this was told. Electricity got shut out. It's even told in shows such as Walking Dead, telling you that you are a Walking Dead person. When that time comes, Before that time, when the government will shut down the electricity and give you an excuse that it can't get started up, all right, the artificial intelligence chip would have been promoted. Now, why is it called artificial intelligence? It's because the public is made dumb, so they have to be given intelligence. And that artificial intelligence chip will be the solution. So when that electricity and power gets shut out, the population who are dumb, they can't cook their own food, they don't know what time it is, they don't know what day or month or year they are in, all right? They don't know where to go direction-wise without a GPS, without a phone. They will be begging for that artificial intelligence chip, and they'll receive it. And do you know the people they are using to promote this chip to the public? Albinos. Because when you are albinic, you're genetically ill. You lack common sense and logic. The only thing you know is instructions, to follow instructions and commands, because you do not have enough impulses in your body to be able to think. And this form of stupidity is passed on to the general public. And black people, even though they will have a brain, but because they have been made to look up to albinism as the standard of society, will become just as dumb as albinos genetically are. So let's continue with the story so you guys can see that being albinic, if you want to be an albino and you're looking up to albinism as the standard of humanity, you are a practicing Satanist, because the Creator never created us as albinos. Man did that. Let's continue on. So, albinism at the start, at its inception, is started by two black people who are of the same family. Siblings, or the nuclear family, procreating with one another, having sex, and a child gets born. So what happens in normal reproduction is that there is supposed to be heterozygosity. That is a big biological term, but it just means that the two people involved in procreation have to come from two separate family lines. All right? Two separate family lines. There's no time to be talking about stuff that people are not interested in, because the greatest pain in this world is dealing with ignorant people. People who have egos, who think they know, but they really don't know. It's such a heartache to deal with ignorant people. And trying to deal with ignorant people is such hard labor. And that's what we go through every day. So let's get back to what we're trying to say. Heterozygosity means that there must be two people of different family lines. So we've explained earlier that in the beginning of time, Adam and Eve were not siblings. They were created. They were not born. Okay? So we were not created out of any sort of incest. Man did that later. To understand the full story of Adam and Eve and how we all came from Adam and Eve, if you're interested, then you'll find us. But we don't have the time to talk about that information here, because you guys are not interested in the truth. And our business here is not to help you out of your ignorance if you do not want to be helped. Okay? So, continue on with the story. Two people, hetero, means that they're different family lines, all right, have to procreate for a child to be born. Now, when two people of the same family, nuclear family, who were born siblings, all right, of the same nuclear family. The nuclear family here means father, mother, children, and their own siblings as well. So a father and mother can have brothers and sisters, right? That means they're all siblings. and a father and mother can have children, that means they are all still part of the same genetic material. So if any of those people procreate, what happens is homozygosity. That means the same identical genetic material. Remember, as we've explained at the start of creation, it was heterozygosity. Eve was created. Adam was created. They were not born. They were different. Two family lines. So that is what the intention has always been for creation. Two family lines procreate. But when black people in Asia, all right, in the continent of Asia, decided to inbreed, this brought about what is called homozygosity, identical genetic material. And when identical genetic material happens to procreate, the protein information that stores information in the neural pathways of how the body should function is stripped out. And this is where albinism starts. Hope you get that. Let's continue on. So if you understand homozygosity, what we just explained, let's now go further because we want you to understand this perfectly. So in homozygosity, right, as we did explain, the protein information, and remember we did show you what a protein chain looks like, that it's a chain of carbon formed with other elements from the periodic table. It stores the information that our body needs to live by, all right, and to be able to function. It's protein that stores all that information, because remember we did explain that a female egg is primarily made of protein, same with the male sperm. Okay, so when that information is destroyed, because remember the protein is made from carbon, all right, carbon, which is falsely called melanin and melatonin in the human body. When that information is destroyed, the embryo that's formed from that union does not have enough information on what it should do. So that's why people with straight hair who are homozygotes, all right, come out with straight hair. They come out with longer torsos, shorter limbs, and the organs are not functioning optimally. So they are genetically sick. And we'll show you a whole host of conditions so you can understand why albinism is the way it is and what is really going on, because this is what the wicked medical industry hides away from you, because it's run by Satan, and they do not want you to know the truth because they are using albinos to cover up their secrets and wickedness, because the only reason for the albinic community is to steal the identity of humankind. Albinos today have stolen the identity of everybody. So everybody now doesn't know who they are. They are now the Jews. They claim to be Native Indians, Native Americans, and every identity under the sun other than the fact that they are Asians. From the continent of Asia, either from the countries of India and Iraq, which was considered as northern India in ancient times, India and the Oriental states. This is the origin of everybody who has straight hair in this world today, because the culture and tradition of inbreeding is an Asian culture, given the fact that some other ethnicities around the world did practice this, but majority of it was done in Asia. Okay, all right, so let's continue on now. If you've understood homozygosity, let's explain further for you to see what is happening when an egg and an embryo, all right, from somebody who is an albino, which was brought about by their great forefathers in black parents being homozygotes, belonging to the same nuclear family and genetic material. So let's continue reading here. We'll leave a link for you on the screen. As usual, all these websites contain so much false information. So if you do not know what you're reading, you are going to go down a very rough path. Like we explained, intelligence is not for everybody. The Creator did not create all of us to be intelligent. There is a very specific reason why that was done. Supreme intelligence was given to Adam. And the lineage of Adam in which that supreme intelligence was tracked ended up with the tribe that's called the tribe of Levi in Israel. They were the only ones whom the Creator spoke with. So if you're not being taught by one of those, you will have no knowledge, because the reason why intelligence was not given to everybody is so that you could know that there is a Creator. That is the reason why. Because if intelligence was given to everybody, we would all become like the Creator, and we would say there is no Creator. So it wasn't given to everybody. It was given to very specific lineage in the tribe of Israel, so that you could find the Creator. Now, I am not one of those, so nobody should think I am. Now, somebody's going to ask, okay, all right, how do you know what you know? Well, it's because I do know the people who have the supreme intelligence. I am not one of them. Now, let's continue reading. We are going to read it right so you understand it with the words we're reading, okay? Now, it says here, it is based on the observation that melanin not only protects DNA. That is wrong information being given to you. All right, so let's read it right so you can understand what they're saying correctly. It says, it is based on the observation that carbon compounds protects information that it's stored in. Because remember, we did make you understand that an egg and a sperm is made of protein. Those two units are supposed to be heterozygous. That means coming from two different family lines. All right. So the carbon, all right, protects that information. The carbon compound that's formed in the protein protects the information. That information is what these guys call DNA. It's falsely called DNA. So let's continue reading. It says, it also protects an essential biological compound called folate, vitamin B9, from degrading. So it's listing what the carbon compound does in protecting the information that's stored in a sperm and an egg. Okay, let's continue reading. It says, in females, folate is required for adequate cell production. So, what is it saying here? If you do not have enough carbon in your body as a female, that carbon is not going to protect the information that your body needs to function by. It also says that this carbon protects a vital vitamin in your body called vitamin B9. And what does vitamin B9 do? It helps female in proper egg cell production. That means if a woman needs to get pregnant, this carbon protects the vitamin B9 from being degraded in the body. Now, if you do not have enough carbon, in which albinos do not have enough, the vitamin B9 is degraded and a woman becomes infertile because her egg production is inadequate. She cannot produce a viable egg for a sperm to fertilize. Do you see why albinos are going infertile now? Let's continue reading. It says, implantation of the embryo in the uterus and in the growth of the placenta. So without enough carbon in your body, the embryo will not be formed when you procreate. It will not be implanted in the uterus for it to grow. The placenta, which the embryo, the baby, needs to survive on inside the womb, it will not happen. Why is this the case? Because you lack carbon, falsely called melanin and melatonin, in your body. Let's continue reading. It says, once an embryo begins developing, folate, the vitamin B9 deficiency, which is caused by the fact that you do not have enough carbon, falsely called melanin and melatonin, in your body to protect the vitamin B9, which is a requirement for a woman to be able to have adequate ovum production necessary for reproduction, will not happen. That's what it's saying here. Once an embryo begins developing, folate protects the embryo from various abnormalities like spina bifida. So, if you do not have enough carbon in your body as an albino, all right, vitamin B9 gets degraded because that is readily consumed in the body. So, the carbon protects that from happening so that you have enough for your egg cell production, for you having a regular ovulation as a woman. That is what is happening here, all right? And a viable egg as well, okay? And it says that when you have sex and you procreate with another albino, homozygosity, because when you procreate with another albino, what is happening is homozygosity, because you belong to the same family lines. You are not from different family lines. That's what's happening. It says, in case fertilization does happen, this carbon is further degraded and the embryo does not form properly. That is the statement here. And since the embryo does not form properly, the children that come out of such a union are going to be genetically dumb, as all albinos, anybody with straight hair in this world are. The only intelligence an albino has, it's what it's been taught by the system and by the people who train him or her to be in the position that they are in this world. That's all they got. They got nothing more, because they do not have enough impulses in the body, because the protein information was degraded, because their parents did not have enough carbon or melanin at the time that they were procreating. So you came out this way. So that is the reason why a lot of diseases happen in the albinic community. Go into the hospitals in North America. They are filled with albinos. But yet there are more black people in North America than albinos. Why is that the case? The wicked medical industry does not tell you that the reason for your frail broken bones, in which you get injured for anything and everything, albinos have a lot of broken bones at any point in time, is because of a lack of carbon. Well, let's finish reading this so we can continue on. All right, it says here now, all right, in males, a deficiency in folate contributes to improper sperm development and infertility. So in every albino, both the males and the females, infertility is caused because they have a lack of carbon, falsely called melanin and melatonin, which is supposed to protect your information, your genetic information in your body, becomes degraded. So if you are seeking to be an albino, because that's what a lot of people want to do today, because albinos are given positions of power, they are given all the money that they necessarily need and places of authority. So everybody, including black people, wants to be albinic. It means that you're seeking death. You're seeking to be genetically sick and ill. That's what you're looking for. You should rather seek to be black, the way the Creator created us, because we were created black and man created albinism. Let's continue on. next presidential check is President George Bush. George W.H. Bush is a United States president, popularly known as the president that led the United States during the Gulf War against Saddam Hussein of Iraq. All right. The Gulf War was made under such circumstances of the fact that Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait. Now, there's more to that story than what you just know. If you guys are interested in knowing the real story, then you know how to get it. So, it says here under George W.H. Bush's speech during that Gulf War, we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. Now, that statement there is very, very false, because what this satanic government does is make you believe that they are trying to form a new world order, but you are already living in one. The world has always been ruled by an empire that ruled the whole entire world. There's always existed a world empire. So anything they're talking about today that they're trying to forge a new world order or a new world empire is actually wrong. It's told to put you to sleep. So you think that they are walking towards it and they are not yet there, so that you do not know that you're being run by a world empire. It's already a new world order. Don't get it twisted. Now, George Bush also said in that same speech, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, they are already successful. They are not about to be successful. They already are. All right? When we are successful, and we will have a real chance in this new world order. They already are successful, and we're already living in a new world order. As we have explained, they keep telling you this, so you go to sleep thinking they're walking and they haven't yet arrived. So you do not put your eyes up and try to wonder, who are the people really trying to make this happen? So let's continue with George W.H. Bush Sr.'s speech. He says, an order in which a credible United Nations, now this is the only part of the story which the truth starts unveiling itself. The United Nations is the tool. It's not the tool for the new world order to come to fruition. It's the tool so that they can say and make laws and say it is the United Nations making these laws for us. So for example, if you are living in any country of the world, the wicked government of your countries will make certain laws that are very, very detrimental to you, that check the right of free speech, of freedom, of movement, and so on and so forth. When you go up to this government and ask them, why are you making this kind of laws? What are they going to refer you to? Oh, the United Nations said that we should do so. So it's a United Nations directive. We have no control over that. Liars and deceivers, because the governments are the United Nations. They just make you believe that there is just a body out here who is controlling them. It's actually the other way around. The governments control the United Nations. They make the laws and then pass it on to you and then tell you that it's the United Nations doing it. That is the lie of these satanic, wicked people in power. The real people running the power, because they are the people making all this happen, the United Nations. Continuing with George W.H. Bush Sr.'s speech, it says, in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and the vision of the UN's founders. And what do you think the UN's founders are all about? They are all about worshiping their God in the Trinity, in Satan, known as Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. And they are socially engineering and conditioning you to be dumb. So by the time when they switch off the electricity, the power, all right, you guys, since you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to tell the time of day, You don't know what day you are in. You don't know what month you are in. You don't know what year you are in without a calendar or a phone or a watch. You don't know what direction you are in because they've told you the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And without a map or a GPS, you wouldn't be able to find yourself. Even with a map, you can't even read, all right, the map correctly because you need a compass to read a map. And the compasses are all wrong. The compass are all wrong. The people who use compasses don't actually know where they are. It's what the compass tells them. And the compass is wrong. You don't know how the compass works either. So, by the time the electricity switched off, as it was shown in a TV series called Revolution, you will be begging for that artificial intelligence chip. And before we continue, let's just point you out to the TV series called Revolution, in which the power, the electricity, was turned off worldwide and power could not be restarted, which will be what will happen in the future. They show you in such movies as Walking Dead, and you guys do not know what you're looking at. But first of all, let's quickly dive into that TV series called Revolution before we continue with Mr., or should we call her Mrs. George W. H. Bush Sr. So here's the webpage about that particular TV series. It's called Revolution. If you have the time, you could go pick it up and watch it. But this was cancelled, I think, after like maybe 2 seasons because it was done for a very specific reason. Because whatever these people do, they put it in films and show you. But they tell the stories in such a way so that you do not grasp because you're all dummies and you don't want any knowledge. And you are just as wicked as the people who produce these TV shows. But because you are not in the organization of wickedness, you do not know that. Because you all are practicing Satanism in one way, shape, or form. Because whatsoever thing that you believe in contradicts the commandment of the Creator. And you're living by them one by one, all of you. So let's read this here. It says, Revolution TV series. Revolution is an American post-apocalyptic science fiction television series that ran from September 17. You can see the Vatican Code is all right here. September 9, 2012 until May 2014. May 21, 3. All right? All symbolic of the worship of the Trinity of Satan. It ran for just 2 seasons and was cancelled. Now, let's read the story about this particular TV series when we scroll down here. It says here, season 1. The series is set in a post-apocalyptic near future in the year 2027. So the year 2027, this is 2019, is roughly 8 years from here, right? Is it about 227? I think so. The year 2027 is roughly about 8 years from 2019. That means they have plans by then to make sure that there is such a system put in place that can make sure that no electricity can be generated worldwide. Do you think this is possible? It's very, very possible. Why is it possible? Because you guys don't know how electricity is really generated. You have no clue. You think you do? You have no clue. And you guys are not interested in knowing either because you all are practicing Satanism as well. You're dumb. You do not seek the Creator. You think you know. You think Jesus, Satan, God, Allah, Most High, Yah is the Creator. Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yahweh Shwai. All right, let's continue on. Those are all names of Satan, by the way. We've already explained that. Now let's continue on. It says here, in the year 2012, a worldwide event known as the blackout caused all electricity on Earth, ranging from computers and electronics to car and jet engines, to be disabled permanently. Did you read that? Because we've explained earlier on several videos that we do have that there is a microchip, all right, set in every computer and hard drive or electronic device, which can shut down that device permanently. We also did explain the fact in one of our videos that every computer has a read cycle. So after certain read cycles, or if it's activated at any point in time, that computer will shut down. It will no longer exist. So the idea of making you guys go digital everything is now on your cell phones and on your computer, because people don't keep stuff in hard copies anymore, is to make sure that all information can be wiped out at the trace of a button. The only way that you can store genuine information now is in books. So you have to write down your history, because if you have it online, trust me, in the next couple of decades, it is gone. Now, there's another method of storing information permanently. You can do that through DVD disc or CD disc is the best way to store information. But since the government has found out there is a loophole that people can store genuine information in DVDs or Blu-ray disc or any disc at all, they have slowly been eliminating the use of any of those formats of storage in discs, in CDs, in DVDs, in Blu-ray discs. So that's why, for example, computers today do not have any read drives to play a DVD or Blu-ray player like it was done before. Now, since the government controls all the corporations that produce computers, all of them at the same time remove this functionality, because they do not want you to keep having access to recording solid information on DVDs. So the best way to store information is on DVDs. Flash drives, hard drives will cease to exist and cease to work correctly. That's why they're doing all this. So the best way to store your information is, number one, write it down in a book and make sure that book will not be destroyed by water. You can do it on animal skin if you wish. All right? Do that. Or get that information on a DVD disc, a disc itself. All right? Now, let's continue reading here, because I want you guys to see. Now, the question you need to ask in this, how would someone sit down, all right, and contrive this kind of material for a TV show? What would make someone think that there could be a blackout and all computers or cars, because right now every car now has a chip. Way back in the day, cars did not have anything like computers in it, but now every car now has a computer. You can turn a car on remotely from anywhere. You can turn it off, you can shut it down. So that's why they keep changing technology, because instead of technology making you wiser, it's making you all dumb, very dumb. Most people don't know how to wash their clothes without a washing machine and wash it right. They don't have no clue on how to do that. They can't cook. Nobody cooks anymore. Nobody's interested in cooking. Now they have culinary schools, people who are specially trained by a book on how to cook. They don't know how to cook themselves. People don't know how to keep time, to keep track of time. They don't know what day or month or year it is without a calendar or a watch or a phone. They don't know the sense of direction without a phone and a GPS. Technology keeps making you dumber, because if you've been watching certain promos that we put on our DVDs and on our videos, we keep telling you in these promos, as long as you keep believing in the promises of a better life that this system offers for you, you will be trapped. You will keep believing their lies, and you go to hell and the lake of fire, which is right behind you. As long as you keep believing in the false promises of a better life that the government always promises you, that they are trying to make things better, you will fall for this deception. But like I said, the greatest trouble in this world is dealing with ignorant folk who think they know something when they don't know anything. So reading down here, as we explained, what would make someone contrive this kind of material for a TV script is because these are Satanists telling you exactly what you're doing in films and nice entertainment. You think you're watching entertainment, you're watching your death, because you're not paying attention. So continue reading here. It says, as a result, trains and cars stopped where they were, ships went dead in the water, and aircraft plummeted from the sky and crashed. In the years after the blackout, people adapted to this new world without electricity, because government and public order collapse. Several areas are ruled by militias and their generals. Now, that's the part of the story that they tell you a lie. Because before this time, the artificial intelligence chip will be promoted. And when the electricity goes down and nobody knows shit, and the government tells you that the only way for you to be able to have intelligence is by receiving that artificial intelligence chip, because you all as dumb as shit. Let's continue back with George W.H. Bush. So the first thing that you have to notice in the way George Bush walks is that George Bush here, when we talk about George Bush, we're talking about the father, the so-called father, who's actually a mother of George Bush Jr., who was a president for 8 years. Now, this particular George Bush, George W.H. Bush, was a president for actually 4 years. And after 4 years, the president that came after her, because it's actually a her, was the man that was called Bill Clinton. So this is George W.H. Bush Sr. So what I want you to notice is the way George W.H. Bush walks here. You can see that she walks like a woman, right? It's leaning the weight of the body into the foot that's in front of the stride, as you can see right here, because this is how all females walk. And as we've explained earlier, the reason for the female walk is because a female has a wider pelvis, wider hips below the crotch. And because of that wider hips below the crotch, when a female has to walk, the leg needs to come into the center of the weight, and the leg needs to go forward at the same time while doing that, causing a woman to have swinging hips in a catwalk manner that you see all females do, because they are biologically wired to manage that weight in the hips that way. All right? This is what George W.H. Bush Sr. is exhibiting, because the American president during the first Gulf War was a female, was never a man in any way, shape, or form. So you can see the difference in the walk between George W.H. Bush Sr. here and this man over here, because with males lean the weight of the body into the foot that's behind them in the stride, so they don't catwalk. You can see the huge difference between the walking stances of these two. But this man right here, who happened to be Boris Yeltsin, never told you one day that George W.H. Bush Sr. here was a woman. A worldwide conspiracy, because Satanists and Satan runs the whole entire system of governance down to the most minute detail. Let's continue on. And here is another picture of George W.H. Bush Sr. when she was much younger. I want you to take a good look. Is that a baby girl or is it a baby boy? And you can notice from the way that George W.H. Bush stands in this picture that this is a little girl standing. You can see the femininity oozing out of her, even with the way she places the hands on those waists, because it's trying to find the male waist point, but it does not exist, because that's the female hips. Because George W.H. Bush Sr., the President of the United States, was a woman, and none of the world leaders, as we showed you earlier in the picture that we just showed you, Boris Yeltsin, the Russian president, never mentioned the fact that George W.H. Bush Sr. was actually a woman. I mean, if Russia is really fighting the United States of America, as we've been made to believe every day in the news, what would be the best way to destroy the morale of the United States presidency? By just saying that one of your presidents, or several of your presidents, as we mentioned, including George W.H. Bush Sr., was a woman. They never mentioned that fact to you. Here's George W.H. Bush Sr., the father of George Bush, who was a president also for 8 years before Barack Obama was actually a woman. And the so-called son in George Bush never mentioned this fact to you. Now, take a good look here at George W.H. Bush Sr. As you can see right here, George H.W. Bush is trying to put her hands, or let's call her a he for now, his hands on the male waist. But it does not exist. Because as you can see, as the arm goes round, that's not the male waist point. Those are all female hips. Because as a female, females have wider, longer pelvises for childbirth. So just below the rib cage of a female, which happens to be George Bush right here, is all female pelvis all the way down. You can see that the way the hands go around here is trying to put the hands on the male waist, but it does not exist. You can see that this arm right here, or hands, are set lower, and this one over here is set higher because that's the female waist point. You can see the way that she places this hand right here. That's the female waist, because George W.H. Bush's senior navel is right around here, and females usually place their arms or hands above that navel. George W.H. Bush Sr., a United States president in the White House, and none of the so-called police who stop you every day on the road and give you tickets for overspeeding. The whole entire political machinery of the Democratic government, including all the so-called black leadership in there, who usually say that they are fighting against white supremacy. They want rights for the black community. They never mention this fact to you. I mean, what would be the best way to destroy albino supremacy if you're really against it? Just mention the fact that all these presidents were females. Not in a joke, but seriously, with facts as we're showing you. Isn't that the best way to destroy an enemy? But this they never did, because the black leadership in the United States benefits of the fact that black people are trampled upon. Their own people are trampled upon day and night by albino supremacists such as George W.H. Bush, put in there by the families who run the world and the whole entire system of governance in the world. This is what is happening. They are benefiting, and then they come out and lie to you and say that they are working for you, like Barack Obama and every black face in leadership today. Such a huge scam. It's not just the black leadership. It trickles down to every black leader, whether it be an artist, all right, a musician, an actor, all of them. They never mention this fact to you. And these are the people you look up to every day. And now here's George W.H. Bush with his so-called wife, or her wife. I mean, it's not even a wife, because technically speaking, in the correct sense, two lesbians can be married, because two lesbians can procreate. They can bring children. So where did George Bush come from? This is a big question. Where do you think they got George Bush from? Where do you think George Bush came from? Because these are two women. So where did the seed or the sperm come from to produce George W. Bush? The president of the United States during the Second Gulf War, the president before Barack Obama. Where did the sperm come from for that dude? I know some of you will be wondering, okay, how is this possible? Because as usual, there are so many ignorant, dumb people. They'll think DNA, some sort of genetic, transformation turned into George W. Bush, who now became the president of the United States during the Second Gulf War before Barack Obama. Well, let's tell you something. George W.H. Bush had 3 brothers. One was called William, another one was called Jonathan, and another one was called Prescott Bush. So they would have fathered the sperm that made Barbara Bush to be pregnant with the son that was called George Bush Jr. It's as simple as that. Because, as we've explained before, the whole system of world leadership is run by families. If you do not belong to that lineage, you will never be a world leader, except you become so wicked that they give you a position, but then it will never be as the highest position of office. So let's continue on now. So taking a look at this picture, you will notice that the way George W.H. Bush walks here, he walks in a catwalk manner, just like the so-called wife in Barbara Bush, leaning all the weight of the foot into the stride and into the foot that's in front of it because of the wider hips that's below the crotch. As you can notice right here, George W.H. Bush Sr. starts spreading from underneath the rib cage as all women usually do. As you can notice, it comes down, and here is where the Q angle starts if you follow our mouse. It does not start here, where it should be for a male, but it starts here. And you can see the acute Q angle here in the walk, because as you can see, George W.H. Bush Sr. is walking like a female because she is one just like Barbara Bush. And nobody told you that. As you can see from this picture, this is a woman on so much chemicals, steroids, and hormones to make it look like a man. Because the United States President, George W.H. Bush Sr., who started the Gulf War with Saddam Hussein, was 100% female, and we had 2 lesbians in the White House, and nobody told you this. Nobody, including the black leadership of the United States. All right, let's continue on. Now, if you were doubting the pictures that we showed you earlier, this one is clear as night and day. You can't deny it. Look at the hourglass figure of this so-called United States President in George W.H. Bush here, Sr. This is a woman. From underneath, you can see how long, because remember, as we've always told you, from below the rib cage of a woman down to her hips is all pelvis. Because the pelvis needs to be wide and long enough for a baby to stay in there for the 9 months of conception that a baby goes through. And this is what George W.H. Bush Sr. is exhibiting. A curvy, wide female figure. Because this is all pelvic area from underneath the elbows, as you can see. An hourglass figure with an acute Q angle that's below the crotch. As you can see, this acute Q angle is below the crotch. It's not above it like it should be for a man, but below it, as you can see where it starts here. Acute Q angle, hourglass figure, because George W.H. Bush is 100% female. Let's continue on. And here is George W.H. Bush again, with a man who seems to look like Boris Yeltsin, the Russian president. And they never told you that this was a woman right here. I don't know if this is Boris Yeltsin. We are saying that the man looks like him. They never mentioned the fact that George W.H. Bush Sr. was a woman. As you can see right here, George W.H. Bush is trying to find the male waist, but it does not exist because this is all female pelvic area. She puts her hands around there, and the hands does not rest because it's not a male waist. It's a female pelvis because George W.H. Bush Sr., an American president, was a woman. And none of the world leaders even remotely mentioned this fact to you in a joke. Jokingly saying, the leader of the free nation of the world that's touted for democracy, for preaching goodness, the righteousness, for freeing people of evil, was a woman masquerading as a man. They did not tell you this. Why? Because Satan runs the whole entire system of governance. You still don't want to open your eyes? But you will not open your eyes because you are just as wicked as the Satanists, but you do not know. All right, let's continue on. And here is George Bush, George W.H. Bush again, still with that same female walk, catwalk, leaning all the weight into the foot that's in front of it. because of the wide pelvis area, the wide hips that are below the crotch. Because George W.H. Bush is 100% woman, a United States president, and this is the White House. So if you were in denial about all the pictures we've shown you of George W.H. Bush Sr., you cannot be in denial of this one, except you are blind and a dumb Satanist like most of the population really are, which they don't know. Because a lot of them think that they actually know what's going on, but they have no clue. Because they are blind Satanists. The population is. The general population of the world, up to 95%, are actually Satanists, but they actually think that they are worshiping the Creator. Go check, you'll find out that you are one sooner or later. Because if you haven't had the right filter and you're not keeping the commandment of the Creator, you haven't kept the filter of the Creator also, you are a practicing Satanist. And as we said, the Creator is not Jesus. Jesus is Satan. He's not Jesus. He's Satan. His name is not God. His name is not Lord. His name is not the Most High. His name is not Jehovah. His name is not Jah. His name is not the Holy Spirit. He's not the Son. He's not Allah. He's not any of the names that you guys know him by. But his name still remains the same. His name, as he said in scripture, says, I am forever, which he spoke to Moses in the book of Exodus, chapter number 3, from verse 14 to verse 15. None of the names of God, Lord, Most High, Jesus, Allah, Elohim, Yehoshua, Yeshua, Yahawashai, Jah, Yah, translates to what he told Moses in Exodus chapter number 3 from verse 14 to 15, which he says, I am forever. None of those names translate to that. So none of you know what the name of the Creator is. So if you were in denial of all the pictures that we've shown you of George W.H. Bush, you cannot be in denial of this particular picture if you know that sex is determined by the skeleton and not by the genitalia or appearance of anyone. So looking at George W.H. Bush Sr. here, you can see as clear as night and day, even though this picture is very blurry because the government hides its transgenders, such as George W.H. Bush Sr. here, you can actually see that this Q angle is happening below the crotch. You can see the jutting out of these hips right here at this point, even though it's a blurry picture, that this Q angle is very acute, too acute to be male. That is actually a female. And remember, the Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. And this is what George W.H. Bush Sr. is exhibiting. A United States president, a female imposter in the White House. And none of your Senate committees, none of your so-called politicians and billionaires, those who say they're looking out for you, remotely mention that fact to you. What kind of a country is the United States in which you cannot even speak at the top of your voice without being arrested for public disturbance? Socially engineering everybody to be afraid of the system, be afraid of law and order, but you have such imposters in the White House, and nobody has arrested them. None of the so-called cops who stop everybody in the street, who target black children, especially the albino cops who target black children and the black population day and night for crimes caused by them for keeping them in poverty. When the system takes all the jobs away from black people and gives it only to albinos, what do you expect black people to do? Not only does it give those jobs to albinos, anybody with straight hair of any ethnicity, all around the world. These albinos do not qualify. Anybody with straight hair do not qualify for those jobs, and they are not given those jobs on merit. What do you expect a black person to do? Because a lot of the black people who steal in the United States are poor. In a system where if you don't have any job, you don't have any lands to grow your crops and feed yourself, when the system takes away your jobs and then puts something on your record, is tantamount to making you a thief. Nobody hires you in such a wicked society such as the United States, in which the general population are Satanists. Because a lot of people watching this will say, oh my goodness, I am not like that. But you are. How are you making the money that you're making? From wicked laws, biased laws that steal money from the population and kill them at the same time. That's how you're making your money. And all you say is, it is a job. I am just doing my job. Just like the policeman on the street will say, I am just doing a job. Because they have refused the commandment of the Creator, which provides knowledge and wisdom. They are biased and are looking at wicked laws and just saying it's just a law. The law is just and good. That's all you're doing. The population of the United States is very, very wicked. Very wicked. There's no humanity left in them, except what the government has told them is humanity. That if you do charitable deeds, you give to the Breast Cancer Association or you give to the orphanage homes, that you are actually doing something good. But how are you getting that money? How are you getting it? Supporting organizations that do wickedness. That's how you're getting your money. And you don't even care about it. Because if you start caring about it, sooner or later, you will get out of that wicked organization. But if all you care about is your gut and your belly and your benefits, you do wickedly to society. Then you go out on social media and show yourself of how you're giving to charity, breast cancer, and standing up for all these ridiculous associations of charity, when inwardly you are as wicked as the people who put George W.H. Bush Sr. right here in power. That's what most Americans are, practicing Satanists, but they don't know it. And just as in the days of Noah, in which the whole entire world thought that they were worshiping the Creator, only 8 people got saved. I want you to imagine how many are going to be saved this time, because this time is going to be far more worse. So getting back to George W.H. Bush Sr. here, you can see that the acute Q angle that George W.H. Bush has is actually female, because here is a man over here running with George W.H. Bush. See where the Q angle starts? It's right here above the crotch. Where does George W.H. Bush own start? Below the crotch. Follow my mouse. That's the acute Q angle below the crotch, because this man, a United States president, was 100% female, was not a man in any way, shape, or form. A United States president. And all the great judiciaries and all the great law enforcement never, ever arrested her for being an imposter. But yet, they arrest you for everything. And here is George W.H. Bush with Barbara Bush. 2 females, lesbians in the White House, homosexuals. So when Barack Obama passed the law that said that anybody could now be a homosexual openly and that unions are granted, all right, he was passing a law that he was working under as well, because Obama was a homosexual with Michelle Obama, who was a man, in the White House. And nobody ever remotely mentioned that fact to you publicly. So the reason why we know about Michelle Obama is because they wanted to indirectly serve Michelle Obama up as a diversion from the fact that so many United States presidents from inception have been females. So many of them. Up to George W.H. Bush here. Up to George W.H. Bush here. So looking at the way Barbara Bush and George W.H. Bush Sr. walks, you can tell these are two females. Strides are coming into the center of gravity of the body on the foot that's in front of the stride. Same way Barbara Bush is walking is the same way George W.H. Bush is walking, because there are two females. With George W.H. Bush here showing you an acute Q angle, an hourglass figure, even through them clothes that she's trying to hide this female form, that George W.H. Bush Sr., a United States president, was 100% woman and not a man in any way likewise. And here is George W.H. Bush with the younger Bush, who became president of the United States, in which Kanye West made a statement saying that George Bush doesn't like black people. Hope you guys remember that during the flooding that happened in New Orleans during that time period. And George Bush here never remotely mentioned the fact. I know that he won't, because technically George Bush is his mother, right? Mention the fact that his so-called father in George W.H. Bush Sr. was a woman. What kind of president was he? Remember what happened during his time? September 11. Who really made September 11 happen? Who were the causal agents of September 11? Your guess should not be wrong at this point. It is your government. Nobody else caused September 11. It's the government who had the power to make everybody evacuate that building. It's the government who had the power to install the explosives. It's the government who had the power to make sure that they grounded every aircraft that day. It's the government who had the ability and the power to control all aspects of September 11. So if you've been thinking that they tell you that it's the Saudi Arabians who are actually Iranians, and Iranians came from northern India in ancient times, or you're thinking that they are the Jews, that the Jews caused this September 11, who are also Iranians as well, you are believing a lot of bullshit. And why are you believing a lot of bullshit? Because you are practicing Satanist yourself. You do not trust in the commandments of the Creator. You do not seek Him. You believe everything you're told without putting it through the filter of the Creator. What does He say? All right. When you start studying your Bible, you'll start knowing exactly where your problem is coming from. But for now, you guys are practicing Satanist. You do not care about the truth. All you care about is the money that you have and how to get it to feed your guts and your belly, without no interest in the reason why you are here on this earth. You never existed before, and now you're here, and you don't care about answering that question. And here is George W.H. Bush with a whole list of United States presidents. We already showed you that Jimmy Carter was a woman, right? We've shown you that George W.H. Bush is a woman. And all these presidents here, including Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., and Barack Obama, never mentioned this fact that Jimmy Carter and George W.H. Bush Sr. were women. Because when you're up close personal with a transgender one-on-one in the same room, you are going to know that you are with a transgender. Because everything is going to come off wrong. Because sex is determined by the skeletal structure. And the skeletal structure, every time that you look at that transgender, when you're up close and personal in the same room, you will know. Because that's the way it's designed. And none of these folks ever told you that George W.H. Bush Sr. here was a woman, a United States president.